Hi and welcome to this series where I'm going through the ITIL4 practices individually, and I'll give you the main headline points you should be aware of in order to help support your base knowledge around ITIL4. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, you'll get the notifications. Okay, so let's get down to it. Today I'm going to be covering off information security management. And that's from the general management practice. So as kind of a very quick refresher around practices, we've got different types of practice areas. So there's 3 of them. There's the general management practices, 14 of those, service management practices, 17, technical management practices, there's 3 of those. So a practice is about a set of organisational resources which are designed for performing work or accomplishing an objective of some type. All practices are subject to the 4 dimensions of ITIL4. So that's the organisation and the people, the information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. And also you have the PESTLE factors that come into play. So if we look at information security management, what do you need to know about that? So the purpose of information security management is to protect the information needed by the organisation to conduct its business. So this includes understanding what the risks are, the confidentiality, the integrity, the availability, authentication, non-repudiation. All of that needs to be protected and understood, and those risks understood and put into place, either preventative action or detection or corrective type action. It's a constant balance. So if we look at authentication for the sake of argument, if I log into an IT system, it's really important that it is actually me and it's not somebody pretending to be me. Maybe they've got hold of my details, or they're pretending that they are me and they're trying to get information. So that whole area of authentication, it fits into this CIA model that I quite like, which is the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. CIA is how I always remember it. So make sure all of the aspects of information security are considered. Also, something called non-repudiation. So ensuring that if I've said something or I've done something or there's some particular type of activity or processing, it has to be presented in such a way that I can't deny that I took that action. So it is a constant balance in information security management around the prevention, the detection, and the correction, because while information of course has to be kept secure, it could be possible, there's a risk that it could stifle innovation. Or worse still, people start to find out, because it's so restrictive, they actually look at ways as to, okay, how can I get around this? What can I do to circumvent this, to look at another way of doing what I want to do in the fashion I want to do it, and somehow trying to look for ways of getting round information security controls. So there has to be that balance. So when you're looking at your prevention, when you're looking at your detection and correction, policies, processes, behaviours, risk management controls, have that at the back of your mind as to, if we get too secure, if you like, ask the question, would that stifle innovation? Would it make it so difficult or so awkward for people that they would start to look at other ways around? It's important you ask the question, but of course balancing that with a proper set and a robust set of security controls. Also, the appetite within the organisation you work in. I've worked in lots of different types of sectors, and it's quite noticeable. One sector may be very, very risk averse, and there are maybe other organisations that I can think of where there's perhaps more appetite to take that risk on. And again, it's that consideration for you. From the practices perspective, now remember there's 34 practices, so you've got the general management practices, the service management practices, and the technical practices within ITIL4. And information security management interacts with all of them. So that's a really key point to have at the back of your mind, in that information security management is touching all of the other practices. Just as a slight aside on this, in terms of practical experience, it's really important that security has some strong and senior stakeholder investment in the activity. So it's really important that security is managed at the most senior level within the organisation. Most organisations will have different types of teams, different levels of resourcing, but typically activities around policy creation, procedures, controls, risk assessments are certainly part of that day-to-day work, and also looking at development and ops and working out how can we include everybody within that. People is a really key element to making sure that security is instilled in individuals. Certainly activities along the lines of awareness campaigns, for example, are really good ways of engaging people, of training people, of motivating people, because it's really important you get people to buy into the whole concept of security. Many processes and procedures are required in order to support the practice of information security management. So if we think about a few moments ago when I said that information security management touches a lot of the other practices, let's take incident. That's a really easy one in one respect in terms of that connection, because you can see clearly there could be a security incident of some kind. Perhaps somebody's raised a ticket in the service desk, or perhaps there has been some kind of activity or alerting or some type of activity that has generated a security incident. So it's really important to have a security incident management process in place. What do the service desk function do if there's a security management incident that comes in? There needs to be a risk management process. There needs to be a review of the controls. There needs to be audit activity, particularly around things like identity control, access management. Are there processes in place there that says this is how people should be able to access the system? These are the controls. Everybody should have their own unique identity, so things like shared accounts, for example, or generic accounts, that's not good. It's not good to have those, because there's no way of actually demonstrating non-repudiation. So if you've got a general account where 10 people can use it, how do you know if someone's logged in using that account, that somebody with privileged access, for the sake of argument, if they're using a shared account, how do you know which person actually deleted all the data, for the sake of argument? You've got 10 suspects. So much better to have unique identity control. Event management, again, there's lots of tools to be thinking about in terms of event management activities. Is there any kind of auditing or any kind of control or access to data and to information, as well as things like ensuring you have pen testing processes in place and procedures for vulnerability, for scanning. Certainly a number of environments I've worked in are regulated environments. So whether it's PCI or other sort of financial service data or credit card data, whatever it is, quite often there's a requirement for regular pen testing, regular vulnerability testing, regular scanning, and those reports to be generated perhaps quarterly, and those need to be looked at. There needs to be evidence that there's a process in place that is running those, and of course corrective action that follows on. And likewise other practices. So if we take change as another good example, so incident management is quite obvious. You've got security incident management. What about change? Well, you wouldn't really want changes to firewalls or key components of infrastructure being changed without a level of security control. You don't want to be, for example, presenting a change at your change advisory board to add another route or add some configuration to the firewall without your security team having looked at it and understood it and accepted it. So that there definitely needs to be controls and procedures around how do you manage those changes, because there will be cases where firewalls do need to be reconfigured or changed or updated, or a route changed or whatever it may be, or some kind of technical configuration. That's fine, but there needs to be control, there needs to be governance around that. And you have the change advisory board, but certainly there needs to be a process. You can't have people just presenting changes at change advisory board without a security team having looked at those, understood those, looked at the risks, and understand, does this open up the network for the sake of argument. And then the final bit I'm going to talk about in terms of information security management is the value chain component. So as a reminder, the service value chain is part of the service value system, where you have the guiding principles, you have your governance, you have the service value chain right at the middle, then you have your practices and your continual improvement, all delivering towards your value piece. So the main point really to emphasize in terms of information security management and the service value chain activities is that it touches all of them. It's involved in all of them. It's involved in the planning, it's involved in the improvement, the engagement, the design and transition, the obtain and build, and the deliver and support. That's all I'm going to cover on this very quick bite-sized bit of information around information security. So please subscribe, please hit the bell, and I'll continue to update further information. Thank you.